It's racking time.
I'm Greg.
I'm Julie, and we're the Crafty Winers.
So today we are doing our Pinot Noir racking.
Yep. That we started on April 25th.
And today is May
10th?
This was a fairly quick fermentation.
Yeah, it was.
So we are also introducing some tools on our website. If you go to craftywiners.com/tools, there are 3 tools right now. I'll give you a screenshot of what there is, but basically one that will calculate the ABV for you, which you can easily do with the calculator. It's final gravity subtracted from the initial gravity times 135 is the formula that we use. But it's also got the more traditional times 131.25 and a complicated one that I will link up on the screen because I do not remember it. Then there's also a tool for calculating the amount of sugar to add based on your desired gravity and your specific gravity at the time. And it even takes into account our formula to let you have your vessel only partway full, and it predicts what the final gravity will be when you add the rest of the water that you have yet to add. And then the final one will adjust hydrometer readings based on the temperature and the calibration temperature of the hydrometer, which
we have struggled with.
we haven't brought up in the past because it's not normally going to be an issue, but with some of our Franken wines that we do out of soda and other weird things, we keep them by a heater, and they can get up as high as 105 degrees when they're fermenting. And at that point, when you're taking the hydrometer reading, it is affected definitely by the heat.
Yeah.
So it's a handy little tool. It's not something you want to try to do in your head, so the tool will do it for you. But these are, of course, free of charge, and you can use them. We're going to create more tools. If you have suggestions of things that you think would be handy, I am a computer programmer, so it's pretty easy for us to throw up new tools.
We're going to be doing a priming sugar one here pretty quick.
Julie is on a mission to naturally ferment for carbonation.
It's my mission.
Secondary fermentation. So we will have results on that too soon. So, and there'll be a calculator for that on our tools page. So I brought all that up because we're going to use that to calculate the ABV,
which is,
and we do have a calculator. And again, you can use the
initial,
just use the easy formula in a calculator or your phone or whatever. But the tool's easy too.
The initial one was
1.103.
1.103.
Mm-hmm.
And ending was 0.99. Is that an 8?
That is an 8.
Okay. 0.998.
And yellow there.
Which one?
I think the 135 is what I still prefer to use.
And then.
So it tells you down in the yellow area what the ABV is.
Okay. Oh, I see it. Yeah. So 14.17.
That's a healthy ABV. So then she could just change the radio box to be one of the other formulas.
That one brings up 13.78.
Right, and that is more traditional. The 135. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that is a City Steady Brew invention. I haven't seen it used by anybody else. 131.25 is.
131.25. Yeah, that's what you typically see on brewing sites.
That's the more traditional. And then the complex, again, I'm going to put up a slide showing you what the complex formula is. Considered to be more accurate, and it's a lot harder to do on a phone or on a calculator because it's an actual formula. But this will do it for you in an instant. So if you want to use the more complex, it's supposed to be more accurate with beverages that are high ABV or high specific gravity.
Well, that one puts this at 14.94.
I like that one. Let's go with that one. Whichever one is highest, I like.
Okay.
So we're going to start racking. I can uncoil the snake that is a autosiphon.
Sorry.
Everything has been sanitized. Sometimes we forget to say that, but that's the very first step, is mix up a batch of sanitizer. Let's try it the right way.
I was wondering if you had a new method.
First thing that we do is mix up our sanitizer, and then everything goes into it.
Yep. Including our hands.
This has got a healthy amount of lease.
Yeah, it does.
About as much as I've ever seen. There's
like an inch.
3/4 of an inch.
I'm really excited for this one.
We haven't made a lot of Pinot Noirs. This we have concentrate to make another batch, and we'll probably start another batch here soon, depending on how well we like it, which we'll know here in a minute.
Of course, it won't be, I mean, aged or oaked yet, so.
But we don't do tasting when we bottle it because we don't do a bottling video on most of our wines. We have one bottling one, and it's pretty much the same process for every wine. So we're not boring you with
bottling everything.
duplicate videos.
But we just discussed this, that we're going to have we'll just do a video on tasting all the different wines that we have. We might not want to do it all in one day.
We might be a little silly by the end of the day. Okay, so I'm tipping it to get the last bit of wine that I can, but
This is where it gets dangerous.
Due to the size of the opening on this carboy and the size of the auto siphon, I can't get all of it, and that's fine because it's got a lot of lees in it.
So the first thing we do is we add this Chiesa sal, 1/8 of a teaspoon, and let it sit for an hour or so before adding the rest of these ingredients. And there's a reason for that, and he'll probably put up notes on why that is.
Or I'll just tell you
Or he'll just tell you.
It's going to grab the negative charged particles, and the chitosan that is basically its complement gets the other charge. So you want to give this time to grab all of its particles before you put in the other one. Otherwise, it can counteract each other.
And you might notice our nifty little containers that we have. The last time I had to use this, I was pouring it out of this giant bottle, this big, into 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that's kind of tricky. So
the chitosan was in little plastic bags, so we had a corner cut off of them, and she'd squeeze it. Anyway, this is a much better way.
I would end up getting it on me and wasting some of it. So these are really.
It's fine to do it out of the original container that it comes in, unless you're trying to do it on video, and at that point it gets a little difficult. So, so I'm going to stir this up gently. You don't want to introduce any unnecessary oxygen at this point. So just gently stir it in, and then we will let it sit for a while. We aren't going to let it sit for the full hour that you should, because we are rolling 5 different cameras full of video. So, but we'll let it sit for a little while, and then we will come back and show you what you can be doing in the meantime.
So in the meantime, while this is sitting here working away, we will take a little bit out and put it into this, so that I can mix the rest of the ingredients in it. And those ingredients are the chitosan, bentonite, potassium sorbate, and the one I hate to say, potassium metabisulfite. I'm getting better.
Good.
So I'll put those in here and mix that up for quite a while. It takes like 5 minutes to get it all mixed, and we won't make you watch that.
I'll put up on the screen what the quantities are that she's putting in.
Okay, it is as mixed up as it's gonna get. The clay kind of settles to the bottom, so I usually have to rinse it out. Now that I said that,
Good enough.
it didn't. And then we're gonna stir it some more.
And that had been about an hour before she added those ingredients. You can be preparing that while you're waiting for the hour to expire, like we did.
Yeah.
Mix that up real good, stirring gently again. Now we're going to check the pH, and we're both very hopeful that there's not a lot of adjustment to be made. So again, in the first video, we wanted the pH to be around 5, or definitely between 4 and 6, because that's what the yeast like. But now that we're starting to think about bottling here in a few weeks, we need to be mindful of what we need to do to the pH to get it ready for bottling, which is, for a red wine, it's between 3.3 and 3.8. So we don't want to wait till the last minute to make that pH adjustment. So it's good to do at least a good part of it now, so that in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, while this is conditioning, the ingredients that we had to adjust the pH are going to be hopefully settling to the bottom. If you wait till the last minute and have to make a big adjustment, then you're going to probably have to give it more time for those ingredients to settle to the bottom and possibly rack again. So we do it now, because the pH isn't normally going to change much on its own between now and when we bottle. So it's safe to do it now.
We do it again before we actually bottle it.
Yes, we'll do it again, but after we adjust it today, it shouldn't change.
Shouldn't.
Not much. So we'll be having to make it maybe a tiny adjustment right prior to bottling. Right now it is 4.43.
Well, gonna have to adjust it.
We're going to want to drop down to probably a high 3 number, like a 3.9, 3.8 in that area. We're not going to go into a lot of detail of what we did here. Watch our pH video. I will tell you after we get it to where we want exactly what we put in. But as far as how we got to that result, watch our pH video, which I'll link. See how you're supposed to handle pH, because we don't want this video to be weighed down with pH issues.
Okay.
So the pH does need to go down a little bit more, but we're going to check it again right before we bottle. So we've got another opportunity to lower it a little bit more. We didn't want to have to do it all today. Then you don't have to.
So last step, we're gonna.
We have another step.
I forgot. We have to taste it.
We're gonna taste it.
Okay.
And we're not expecting it to be wonderful, but it'll give us a little idea of how everything came out. And this is with the pH balancing stuff in it intentionally. I'm not going to be really optimistic. That's probably plenty for us.
Well, it smells like wine. Good.
It's good. We're drinking, is it Merlot? So I'm sure this is
this is a switch.
it's going to be a switch.
But yeah, it's definitely yeah, I can see where that's gonna go, especially with the oak in it.
It's a lot different than the Merlot, but
It's
yeah.
smooth.
And there's absolutely no sweetness, which was good. This went completely dry at 0.998.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's going to be a good wine.
So now the last step. I almost skipped the best part.
Yeah, if it was wine we were going to infuse like we normally do to our Merlots, we would use an infuser. But because we're not adding any other ingredients right now, these oak cubes are just going to go on the top. And I noticed we have a lot of little baby ones. Mm. Typically, we use ones that are about 3/4 inch square, but there are some.
There's some tiny ones.
There's some irregular sized ones on here, so you want the equivalent of about 4 of these bigger ones. So
I might put a couple extra.
You can't over you can over oak it, but we're probably not going to.
We haven't experienced over oak yet. That should be good.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm gonna plop these in here.
They aren't going to sink, at least not immediately. A lot of times they'll sink after some of the CO2 fleets out. We also have in past videos, we have used the food saver to degas. We're not doing that today just because we got a lot of videos that we're going to be recording, so we're not going to do it on air. But you can use the food saver to get a good head start on getting the CO2 out of here. A lot of times that will make the oak cubes sink, but other times they won't. They'll just keep floating, and that's okay too. You're only losing one side of the cube that is not in the wine. It's not a huge deal. This is going to be in our 55-degree fermenting storage area for probably 4 weeks before we touch it again.
Yep.
We will use
our airlock.
The airlock that was on it initially. It's got a little bit of juice still in there. Put our batch label back on. Now, she made notes of everything that we did. It's important to make notes so that you know what you did. So if you did something wrong or did something right, you can figure it out.
And if it's right, you can recreate it when you've got 20 wines conditioning in there.
Yeah, I didn't count. We have over 20 wines right now.
We have a lot.
We have our I'm looking at 4 Franken wines in the back of stage that are everything from orange Fanta to A&W root beer to
Code Red.
Code Red actually got racked this morning, so it's not there. But yeah,
I don't see it.
We've got some fun videos that we're going to be trying to do, but we're trying to make sure we have the recipes right before we do that. So
you've made everybody interested in your Franken wines now. We're going to have to hurry up with that.
Our fermenting room is full. We added new shelves for storage, and they're already full. So we've got lots of stuff going on.
Thank you guys for watching our part 2 on Pinot Noir. Like the video, subscribe. If you're already a subscriber, thank you very much for your support. We appreciate it. And till next time. Cheers.